As I look back on my life, it feels like a story not my own, a tale filled with unexpected twists and turns, much like the river that flows through my childhood village. My name is Kelvin, and I am the man at the center of this tale, a man whose actions have left a trail of broken hearts and shattered trusts. But to understand who I am and how I got here, we must journey back to the village where it all began. I grew up in a small village nestled between rolling hills and lush farmlands. The air was always fresh, and the days were long, filled with the simple pleasures of childhood. My mother, Agnes, was a strong woman, the second wife to my father, who was a man of few words and even fewer visits. He had another family in the city, a world away from our humble village life. But my mother never let his absence dampen her spirit. She was a pillar of strength, raising me with love and a firm hand. She often said, "A child who does not listen to his mother's teachings will end up with scars that will never heal." Those words, like many of her adages, stayed with me, echoing in my mind as I navigated the complexities of life. My upbringing in a polygamous household significantly influenced my beliefs and attitudes towards relationships and fidelity. Growing up in a village where polygamy was not uncommon, I observed the dynamics of such a family structure firsthand. My father had multiple wives, and I often witnessed the complex interactions and negotiations involved in maintaining such a family. From a young age, I was exposed to the idea that a man could have multiple women as long as he fulfilled his responsibilities as a provider. My father, though not always present, ensured that his wives and children were cared for materially. This setup normalized the notion that the measure of a man's success and worth was tied to his ability to support a large family. The emotional and psychological complexities of such arrangements were often overlooked and dismissed, overshadowed by the practical concerns of provision and status. My mother played a pivotal role in shaping my perceptions. As the second wife, she often navigated the delicate balance of maintaining her position within the family hierarchy. Her acceptance of this arrangement, coupled with the cultural norms that upheld polygamy as a legitimate and respected practice, reinforced in me the belief that having multiple partners was an acceptable aspect of manhood. My mother, like many women in similar circumstances, may have expressed her frustrations privately, but publicly she adhered to the cultural expectations of loyalty and respect towards her husband, my dad. The environment I grew up in was steeped in traditional values that often equated a man's worth with his ability to accumulate wealth and women. The respect and status afforded to my father, despite his divided attentions, further solidified this belief in me. I saw that as long as my father fulfilled his role as a provider, the community largely overlooked the emotional and moral implications of his lifestyle. This upbringing left me with a skewed understanding of relationships and loyalty. I internalized the idea that infidelity was a privilege afforded to men who could provide, a belief that was subtly reinforced by my father's actions and the community's tacit acceptance. The lack of open conversation about the emotional impact of polygamy, the struggles of the women involved, and the potential for neglect in such arrangements meant that I never fully grasped the depth of commitment and loyalty required in a monogamous relationship. When I began my own relationships, these early influences manifested in my actions. Despite my love for Cynthia, I felt entitled to pursue other women, rationalizing my behavior with the belief that as long as I provided for Cynthia and my children, I was fulfilling my primary obligations. This mindset, ingrained from my childhood, blinded me to the emotional harm my actions caused her. One of my earliest memories is of walking to school with Chioma. She was always by my side. We grew up in the same village, a place where the air was fresh and the people knew each other's names. It was a small world, filled with the sounds of children playing in the fields and the distant calls of mothers bringing them home for dinner. Chioma and I were inseparable, two young souls bound by the innocence of childhood and the warmth of our family's friendship. Our mothers, Agnes and Ifoma, who were very close friends, often seen laughing and sharing stories at the village market. They would exchange news and gossip, while Chioma and I played nearby. From a young age, I felt a deep affection for her, an unspoken bond that seemed to grow stronger with each passing day. We walked to school together, our bare feet patting down the dusty path that wound through the village. I was her protector, her confidant, and as we grew older, her hero. In school, I was known for my sharp mind and quick wit. Teachers often praised me, saying I was destined for great things. Chioma, too, was bright, but she was shy, content to linger in the background. I became the school's senior prefect, a role that brought with it respect and responsibility. It was during this time that my feeling for Chioma began to deepen. I saw her not just as a friend, but as something more. A partner, perhaps, even a future wife. Our mothers encouraged this bond, often joking about our future together. Kelvin and Chioma, they would say, like the palm tree and the palm kernel, forever intertwined. As teenagers, our affection blossomed into love, or at least what we understood love to be. There were stolen glances, whispered words, and the occasional touch that sent shivers down my spine. Chioma looked up to me, and I felt a deep need to protect her, to keep her safe from the cruelties of the world. When other boys teased her, I stepped in, my status as senior prefect providing a shield against their jests. She was grateful, and her eyes shone with a warmth that made my heart race. But life, as it often does, had other plans. I was the first in our village to graduate from secondary school, a milestone that brought with it the promise of a new life beyond the familiar confines of our home. I was eager to explore the world, to chase dreams that seemed just within reach. The day I received my admission letter to the university was one of the happiest of my life. It was also the beginning of the end for the childhood romance Chioma and I had nurtured. Leaving the village was a bittersweet experience. As I prepared to depart, Chioma stood at the edge of the road, her eyes brimming with tears. But that didn't make it any easier. She held my hands, her grip tight, as if she could keep me from leaving, just by holding on. "Kelvin, don't go," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Stay with me. We can be together here." Her words tugged at my heart, but my mind was already set on the future that awaited me. The university was a place of endless possibilities, a chance to build a life far beyond the simple confines of the village. I tried to reassure her, to make promises I wasn't sure I could keep. "I'll come back," I said, my voice firm. "This is just the beginning for us. We'll be together, I promise." But even as I spoke, I knew the truth. The world beyond the village was vast and filled with distractions. The lure of the unknown was too strong, and I was too young and naive to understand the value of what I was leaving behind. Chioma clung to me, her tears flowing freely now. She begged me to stay, to remember the love we had shared, but I pulled away, my heart hardened by the excitement of a new adventure. The university was everything I had dreamed of and more. The campus was bustling with energy, a place where ideas flowed as freely as the laughter of the students. I was caught up in the whirlwind of new experiences, meeting people from different backgrounds, learning new things, and exploring the freedom of young adulthood. The village and everything it represented quickly faded into the background. My studies consumed me, and I threw myself into the pursuit of knowledge and success. Chima wrote me often, her letters filled with longing and love. She spoke of the village, of her days without me, of how much she missed our walks and talks. But as time passed, her words became a distant echo, drowned out by the noise of my new life. I was meeting new people, making new friends, and for the first time, I felt a sense of independence and possibility. The memories of Chema, of our shared childhood, seemed like a different lifetime. I met other women, charming and sophisticated, who dazzled me with their confidence and poise. They were different from Chema, who was simple and sweet, rooted in the traditions of our village. I found myself drawn to these new women, their allure intoxicating. I flirted, I dated, and I quickly forgot the promises I had made to Choma. The letters she sent went unanswered, piling up in a drawer, unopened and unread. It was during the holiday that I returned to the village, the weight of my actions finally catching up with me. I was greeted with smiles and congratulations, everyone eager to hear about my life in the city. But when I saw Shema, my heart sank. She looked at me with a mixture of hope and fear, her eyes searching mine for any sign of the boy she once loved. There was a distance between us, a gap widened by my silence and her unanswered letters. We walked together just like we used to, but the air was heavy with unspoken words. Chioma finally broke the silence, her voice barely above a whisper. "You didn't write back," she said, her eyes fixed on the ground. "I waited for your letters, but they never came." I felt a pang of guilt, the reality of my actions hitting me hard. I had been selfish, caught up in my own world, forgetting the love we once shared. I tried to explain, to justify my silence, but the words felt hollow. Shema looked at me, her eyes filled with tears. "I still love you, Kelvin," she said, her voice trembling. "But you've changed. You're not the same person who left this village." Her words stung, and I knew she was right. The boy who had left the village with dreams of a brighter future had become someone else. Someone who had forgotten the simple, pure love he once knew. I had traded the comfort of familiar affection for the thrill of the unknown, and in doing so, I had lost a part of myself. Chioma cried, her sobs quiet but heartbreaking. She begged me to love her once again, to remember the love we shared, but I knew it was too late. The bond we had was broken, shattered by my neglect and the choices I had made. I held her as she wept, feeling the weight of my mistakes. In that moment, I realized how much I had hurt her, how my actions had torn her apart, the dreams we once shared. As the sun set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Gemma pulled away. She wiped her tears and looked at me with a sad smile. Go, Kelvin, she said softly. Go and live your life. Just to know that you took a piece of my heart with you. Years passed, and I heard less and less about Gemma. She stopped writing, and I stopped asking. The village and the life I had left behind became a distant memory. I focused on my studies, on building a future that seemed bright and full of promise. But no matter how far I went or how much I achieved, there was always a part of me that felt empty, a part of me that remembered the girl who had loved me unconditionally. Looking back, I see now how foolish I was, how blinded I was by the allure of the unknown. Chima was my first love, the girl who saw me for who I truly was, and I had thrown it all away. I had been young and naive, chasing dreams that seemed more important than the love we shared. And in the end, I had paid the price, losing something precious that I could never get back. Life moved on, and so did I. I met Cynthia, a woman who brought new light into my life, and we built a family together. But the memory of Chema, of the love we once had, never completely faded. It was a reminder of the mistakes I had made, of the hearts I had broken, and of the lessons I had learned too late. As I sit here reflecting on my past, I realize that life is full of choices, and each choice comes with consequences. I chose to leave Chema, to chase a future that seemed more exciting and promising. But in doing so, I lost something irreplaceable. I lost the chance to love and be loved by someone who knew me better than anyone else. Someone who had seen me at my best and my worst and loved me anyway. Choma taught me what it meant to truly love someone, to care for them and protect them. She showed me the beauty of a simple life, the joy of shared moments, and the pain of losing something precious. And though our paths diverged and our lives took different turns, I will always remember her as my first love, the girl who loved me with a pure and unwavering heart. Now, as I look at my daughters, I see the future in their eyes. I hope to teach them the lesson I learned too late, to show them the importance of love, loyalty, and honesty. I hope they never make the same mistakes I did, that they cherish the people who love them and never take them for granted. For in the end, it is not the wealth we accumulate or the adventures we chase that defines us, but the love we give and receive, the connections we make, and the hearts we hold close. Chima's tears, her pleas, her broken heart, they are all part of my story, a chapter that taught me more about life and love than any university course could ever. And though I cannot change the past, I can learn from it, grow from it, and strive to be a better person because of it. That is the legacy of Chima's love, A love that, despite the distance and the years, still echoes in the deepest corners of my heart. Meeting Cynthia was like watching the first rain of the season. Everything felt fresh, new, and full of possibilities. I was in my third year at the university, already used to the routines of campus life when I first laid eyes on her. The campus was abuzz with the arrival of new students, the Jambites, as we called them, young and eager to embark on their academic journeys. It was a bright morning, and the air was filled with the excitement of new beginnings. Cynthia stood out from the crowd, not because she tried to, but because her beauty was the kind that demanded attention. She had a graceful elegance, a quiet confidence that seemed to light up the space around her. Her deep brown skin glowed under the sun, and her eyes, expressive and full of life, seemed to hold 1,000 stories. I was struck by her presence, as if something inside me knew she was different, special. I remember the exact moment I approached her. She was standing under a large mango tree, looking slightly lost, a fresh jambite, trying to find her way around. Her long black hair was tied in a neat bun, and she wore a simple dress that accentuated her natural beauty. I walked up, a mix of confidence and nervousness. "Hello, are you new here?" I asked, trying to sound casual. She turned to me, her eyes meeting mine. There was a brief pause, a moment where the world seemed to stand still. "Yes," she replied, her voice soft but clear. "I am looking for the Faculty of Arts." I smiled, eager to help. "I'm Kelvin, a third-year student. I can show you around if you like." Her smile was warm, a genuine expression that made my heart skip a beat. "Thank you, Kelvin. I am Cynthia." We walked together, and I showed her the main buildings, pointing out the best spots to study, where to get the best food, and the library, which was always quiet and cool. As we talked, I found myself drawn to her even more. She was intelligent, thoughtful, and had a subtle wit that made our conversations flow effortlessly. By the time we reached her destination, I was completely captivated. Over the next few weeks, we saw each other often. I would coincidentally bump into her between classes, offering to help her with assignments and simply chatting about life on campus. We became friends quickly, our conversations deep and engaging. I learned that she came from a loving family, that she loved reading and had a passion for history. She was also ambitious, with dreams of becoming a writer and sharing stories that could change the world. One evening, after a particularly long day of lectures, we found ourselves sitting on the bench near the faculty building. The campus was quiet, the day slipping into night. We talked about our lives, our dreams, and our fears. There was a moment of silence, and then I blurted out, "Cynthia, I think I'm falling for you." She looked at me, surprised, and then she smiled, a smile that seemed to light up the night. "I've been waiting for you to say that," she replied, her voice teasing but tender. My heart soared, and in that moment, I knew she felt the same way. We started dating, and it was like discovering a new world. Cynthia was everything I had ever wanted and more. She was supportive, understanding, and she pushed me to be better. She challenged my ideas, made me see things from different perspectives, and encouraged me to think beyond the immediate. With her, I felt a sense of purpose, a desire to be the best version of myself. As our relationship deepened, I began to think about the future. I was nearing the end of my studies, and the thought of life after university loomed large. I wanted Cynthia to be part of that future, to build a life together, to share our dreams and ambitions. So one evening, as we sat in the quiet corner of a small cafe we often visited, I took her hand and looked into her eyes. "Cynthia, will you marry me?" I asked, my voice steady, but my heart pounding. She stared at me, her eyes wide with surprise and emotion. For a moment, I worried she would say no, that I was moving too fast. But then she smiled, a smile that was both joyful and tender. "Yes, Kelvin," she said softly. "Yes, I will marry you." The joy I felt was indescribable. We celebrated that night, talking about our future, our hopes, and our plans. But as we planned our life together, I knew there was one significant obstacle we had to overcome: my mother, Agnes. After I graduated from the university, I struggled to find a steady work. The job market was tough, and my prospects seemed bleak. It was during this difficult time that Cynthia stepped in, using her connections to open doors I couldn't have accessed on my own. Her father, a respected man with influence in the construction industry, played a pivotal role in my career. He recognized my potentials and, at Cynthia's urging, recommended me to a reputable construction firm. It was a golden opportunity, and I seized it with both hands. The job not only provided financial stability, but also a sense of purpose and direction. Cynthia stood by me every step of the way, her belief in me unwavering, even when I doubted myself. Agnes was a traditional woman, deeply rooted in the customs and traditions of our village. She had always imagined that I would marry Chima, her friend's daughter. Chima was from our village, and in my mother's eyes, she was the perfect match for me. She understood our customs, spoke our language, and was, in many ways, already part of my family. Cynthia, on the other hand, was from a different village with different customs. My mother believed that marrying outside our community would lead to complications and misunderstandings. When I told my mother about Cynthia, her reaction was swift and sharp. "Kelvin, why would you want to marry a stranger?" she asked, her voice filled with disapproval. "Shema is right here, a good girl who knows our ways. Why bring someone who doesn't understand our traditions?" I tried to explain to make her see how much Cynthia meant to me, how she made me a better person, but my mother was resolute. "Marriage is not just about love, Kelvin," she said firmly. "It's about family, culture, and traditions. Cynthia would never understand our ways. She is not one of us." Her words stung, but I refused to be swayed. "Mother, Cynthia is kind, intelligent, and loves me for who I am," I insisted. "She may not know all our customs, but she is willing to learn, and I love her. That's what matters." My mother shook her head, her expression hardening. "Love is not enough, Kelvin. You cannot ignore your roots. Chioma is from a good family, our family. She will keep our traditions alive." The conversation ended in a stalemate. My mother was set in her ways, and I was determined to follow my heart. The tension between us grew, a silent battle of wills. I knew I was asking her to accept something that went against everything she believed in. But I couldn't give up on Cynthia. She was the woman I wanted to spend my life with. and I was willing to fight for her.